Welcome to Eldritch Hacks, where we talk about the dark tech magic and make it fun and interesting and easy for you to understand, focused on cybersecurity of both offense and defense. Hello everybody and welcome to Eldritch Hacks. I'm your host Christian Cooper, and today we are going to be diving into a very special subject of a different form of attacking known as SQL injection. Now, this concept is going to be a little bit more advanced. I'm not going to throw you guys deep into the water. We're going to go over a lot of the basics, and over time, we're going to use some different examples, kind of explaining all the different factors of it, and then at the very end, we're going to do a resource, so that way you guys get the visual, the audio, and the hands-on learning that makes it very easy to kind of get the foot wet in the water. So, without further ado, let's first dive into what is SQL. So, what is SQL? SQL is a structured query language. It is a standard programming language designed for manipulating and managing data in a database. So, in short, when you are building a roster or you're saving data, a lot of times you'll assign different values to different things, such as if I'm doing like a list of names, I'll assign names, age, gender, etc. This allows it to where you can code with a SQL and be able to quickly grab or manipulate that data, and it's a very nice standard across the board with most devices and things out there. Some companies have tried to develop their own software to do this, and it gets really complicated, so SQL is kind of like the very easy way of doing it without having to get too complicated. It is designed only to work with the data. It doesn't have the full list of features that you would see with things like Python and C++ and other languages out there. So don't try to think too much about it. Just think of it as kind of like a, hey, go grab this, bring it back. It's like a mailman of sorts. And it is often embedded into other languages like Python, allowing them to interact with the databases. You might bring in a SQL based library or interactions inside of your software that you're designing with Python for a programmer thing that you're working on. Now, obviously, I know that's a lot for a person to kind of take in, and it's a lot of terms being tossed at you. So let's do a little bit of a visual example. So, my visual example here is this. This is my database of the roster of people within my company. I have assigned it already their different values of name, age, and gender. And of course, they have their respective things, such as like age is probably saved as like an integer, etc. But, anyways, before we get too much into the weeds. So, this is an example of a database that I am going to be using for using SQL with it. So, I'm getting a proposal from my boss, and they're saying that they want to toss a party. They want to make sure that they don't give drinks out to anybody that's under 21. So, obviously, in the US, we can't have anybody that's under the age of 21 drinking. So, they want to make sure that we get a roster of roughly who is allowed to drink and who is not. So, we need to figure out who is under 21 and cannot drink at the company party. So, one thing that we might do is a SQL code like this. So it has a variety of different things in here. Let's do a breakdown of it. First off, it says select with an asterisk. That asterisk means select everything within the database. And from that roster, which is the name of the thing that we have saved here, where age is less than 21. So now that it has been told, hey, out of our entire database, look for the roster and look for anybody with that age value that is less than that. Makes it for really quick getting it. And compared to somebody having to open a file and scroll and scroll and scroll and find it, you can use SQL code to quickly find the value that you're looking for. And quickly we will find out that it is able to get the examples of, boom, Oscar and Alex. So, a really awesome example of showing SQL language out there. Now, SQL is a lot more complex with that, and there's a lot of terminologies and things and little exercises and comments and things that you can do out there. Let's go ahead and dive into some basic coding that you can do with SQL. So let's talk about some basic, very bare bones SQL coding terms that you're going to be seeing in the examples of when we get into the SQL injection attacks. So here are some basic code terms in SQL that we will be using today for the examples of our basic SQL injection attacks. So, first off, the quotations or prepositions that you see there are typically used as brackets to hold a value that you input in. So when you're logging in, typing in your username, typically in your code you'll have little prepositions in there to hold the input that you have. Another example of what we're going to be using is 1 equals 1, which is a true statement. I mean, 1 does equal 1. So that is something that we're going to be using to kind of give this false signal of true when in reality we're trying to make it do something else. So it'll take a little bit of show and tell when we do that example, but bear with me on that. And the last one is dash dash, which is used as indicating for comments, putting comments in the code when doing SQL. So that is another one that we're going to be using, which is going to be a way for us to hop around having to do certain different inputs. Let's use an example of combining all these terms together into an example for you. So here is an example that I wanted to show you guys, and it is me trying to get into a admin-based account. And we use the following SQL injection. Now let's do a breakdown of talking about what exactly is happening with this. So obviously we're trying to get into the administrative account, so we type in the administrative account. We add a quotation to end the statement there, because if you remember, I said the inputs are typically in between quotations, so we're ending that statement, and then we're making it to where whatever the next code is supposed to be is now commented out. So with our comment indicator, we use that right after, and this allows us to be able to skip the login process. Now, most of the systems are more secure than this, but we do live in an age where people are vibe coding a lot more now and not adding these little safety checks. So this is an example of a very bare bones basic attempt of getting into an account with no sort of protection and logging right in and skipping having to use a password. Now, let's actually put this into practice. I think I've yapped enough. I think it's time to stop yapping and start hacking. So let's get to it. Alright, now we're beginning the live fire practice section of this. And before I begin, I do want to say the following, that make sure that we are doing this only for educational purposes and for me to teach you guys. Do not go around trying to hack random websites, because here at Eldritch Hacks we teach people to be a beacon for society, not a plague on society. So just keep that in mind. This is for educational purposes only. This is actually AltoroMutual, which is a fake banking website based off of HCL products, where they use it for vulnerability scans. We're going to use it more for practice of being able to use SQL injections, but this one has like a lot of really cool vulnerabilities that you can kind of exploit, but we're going to use it specifically for SQL injections of the things that we've learned. So I guess the first thing to probably go do is go try to hack into the login here. So we're right here at the bank login. Now, before I begin any sort of pen test based practice, I want to go, you right click it and you can go to your page search. You guys can't see it on this menu because it's window capture, but if you just do Control U or you right click and click View Page Source, we can go into the page source here. Now, most of this is going to be gibberish for non-coders out there, but it does have like unique links and everything out there. What we're looking for is a particular thing of right here, input. So with that, we know that these are sections where input is going to be put into, and then we can see kind of roughly what it's going to be assigned with. So we know that the username is being assigned, which is called user ID, and now we know that password is saved under that value. So now that we know that that's going to be a spot that we can put in input, we have this right here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to type in admin, and we'll just type in a random password, 1234. Obviously, it's not going to work. It's not going to work out there. So what we're going to do is we are going to use that true statement that we mentioned before. So right now we're testing the waters and seeing what things are out there. So we're going to try to go for the admin account again. And then we're going to do the following code that I have written over there of the quotation, 1 equals 1. We'll try that. And boom, we got our first error code of error 1 within line 1 of 67. we now know that SQL is involved in this environment, which is awesome. This is perfect for what we want to do. Also, let's say if in the event I also wanted to test out, we'll do, instead of it being that, we're going to try it with the double quotations, just to try it out, because some different environments use that. So we'll see if this is actually a super vulnerable website, because I think they probably stopped this one. Okay, they did. No, both actually work completely fine. Okay. So we have that out the way. Now we're going to do similar to what we did in the prior thing of, we are going to be doing admin with a quotation. So we're going to do, here, let me see if I can actually type this out for you guys here. So we're going to be doing admin followed by a quotation and then comment. And we'll see if we can actually bypass this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to here, the admin. So admin with a quotation followed by a space with a comment. And after that, we're going to type in some random password. I'm going to type in whatever. Let's do Taco Bell is amazing and I love it so much. But boom, we were able to hack into this banking website. And that just goes to show you guys that SQL injection, it sounds like a really complicated base subject, but in this case right here, we were able to find out with the 1 equals 1 with quotations, hey, it's using SQL, and then we were able to use SQL-based code with the admin there with a quotation and the comment to nullify and be able to get into this fake account. So now I'm in this account and it has $10,000 and I can just go into their checking account or whatever and do whatever I want. And that's kind of the gist of SQL injection. Now let's talk about how the hell do you defend against this in your work environment. Okay, now that we've done the live example of the attack, let's figure out how do you defend against a SQL-based injection. And we're going to talk about a variety of the different ways that you can defend against it, because it's important not only to attack, but also learn to defend. So the first one that we're going to have is having it to where you limit the database permissions and adding a zero trust model. So obviously you don't want to have people have a bunch of control. If somebody can log into an account and transfer money, that's a lot of power. So maybe they can just check it based off of that, but they have to use a VPN in order to transfer money, or it has to be geolocation based, or the zero trust model, they have to use multi-factor authentication with like a phone or something. So that's one way that you can do that. The other way is with the second example, which is validate and sanitize your code. This one's a little bit weird for people who are not used to coding, but you can actually say, hey, I only want usernames and passwords to include numbers and letters, nothing else. So, for example, when I'm trying to log in with a username, I was using quotations and explanation points and asterisks and all these other different characters. And you can actually just have it where your code says, no. If it has it in there, no, this is not accepted. And that's a good way to get around that. So, and also making sure that you have double checks to make sure that if a number is typed in, it is a number. It is not anything other fancy characters. And then last one that is prepared statements, which are also known as pre-meteorized queries. This is a newer term that I'm still kind of getting myself familiar with. But basically, it's just having a placeholder and an established statement, and you're only typing in like a little portion of it. So in the example that I have written here, it has it to where username equals question mark, and then whatever you type in, it replaces that question mark for it. So if I type in my name, my password's 123, it'll say 123 now equals question mark, replaces it, and then it checks if it's true, and then it's like, okay, that's a true statement, you're good to go. Instead of me being able to type in whatever code I want. So it's just a different approach of doing it. This one's a little bit more popular and is a lot more complex and stops a lot of stuff. So if you really can and you have a good understanding of how to code, doing prepared based pre-meteorized queries is actually probably the best move when trying to defend against these attacks. But Anyways, guys, that is pretty much everything that I have to teach for today. I wanted to just really give you guys a good rundown of SQL and SQL-based injections. Obviously, this is a little bit more of a advanced topic, but I figured that this would be an awesome way to jump into the fray. Make sure to check the links down below, and we will continue on with some of the other tools and things I'm going to show you. So I really want to thank you guys for watching. This channel has been, I'm getting amazing support, and I can't thank you guys enough. And there's going to be a lot more fun labs in the future, but as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.